Now, to all Conservatives, those who have been members for decades and those who have just recently joined our movement, every single kind of Conservative is welcome in this party, and this party belongs to all of you.
We're back with round 2 of the Sunday Scrum. Susan Riley, John Ibbotson, and Denise CLA. Denise joining me from Ottawa. Susan and John, I have the honor of having you in Toronto today. Welcome to you.
Hi.
Let's talk about Michael Chung. Made it 10 counts to 5th place. Here's what he had to say about that.
I always think about the 1983 Conservative leadership race where John Crosbie ran as a candidate and fought for free trade, and in a party that was resolutely opposed to free trade. But by 1988, Brian Mulroney reversed the party's position on free trade, and the party became pro-free trade, and we've never looked back. The issue of the pricing of carbon, to me, is an issue like that.
What does his 5th place loss behind social conservative Brad Trost say about the future of the party, Susan?
Well, it says that it's a resolutely conservative party, and it's also not only conservative, old. It's funny, in Andrew Scheer, you have a young man, 38, sort of the first time I've ever seen dimples deployed as a political weapon, but there you have it, very congenial. And, you know, so a youthful, fresh face who's preaching a positive approach with a raft of policies that are very 1950s. I mean, especially on climate, but on a number of other things too. Reagan-esque almost. They're conservatives, though. What else can you expect? I mean, that is what that's their core belief of conservatives. They resist change. They're very cautious and careful and whatnot. And I don't think it's going to resonate with the public at large. And they will be pulled, kicking and screaming, into a more proactive position on climate, just as they have been on gay marriage. How long that'll take, though, I don't know.
John?
Well, how long is the question? Absolutely. Look, if the next election is about environmental issues, then the Conservatives are going to be in a very difficult place because, yes, they're on the wrong side of history on environmental issues. If the election is about the economy, then the Conservatives are always, well, you know, in an advantageous place. So if Justin Trudeau is unable to secure a new agreement with NAFTA, if there are tariffs on the border, even if manufacturers just get spooked and start moving jobs and factories south of the border, if people begin to think, sunny ways, forget about that, I'm worried about my job, I'm worried about my paycheck, I'm worried about rising energy prices, then it becomes a case of who can you trust to manage the store. Stephen Harper won 3 consecutive elections, let's not forget, on the issue of who can you trust to manage the store.
Yeah, but Andrew Scheer is in favor of Brexit. I mean, if anything, he's more protectionist than, you know, so I'm not sure, again, that doesn't strike me as the way of the future. It's certainly not the neoliberal free trade gospel.
I think Andrew Scheer is a pro-free trader. It would be a mistake. I mean, he's about balancing the budget in 2 years, which I think is going to be ridiculously hard to do. Mm-hmm. He's about cutting taxes. He's about eliminating business subsidies, and he is about free trade. I mean, in that sense, he's a classic Tory.
Yeah, and I suspect that when he goes in there, it's going to be steady as she goes, which is very important. And in fact, I think there's part of it would be a waiting game to let the Liberals implode. There's the deficit question that still is we're not addressing in a real way. What will that look like in terms of the impact on Canadians and their pocketbooks? Now, when you think about the progressive conservative wing, if you will, of the party, Michael Chong did well. He had his platform, and given how Andrew Scheer has sort of said, look, I want to listen to all of the parts of our party. We are all conservatives, that there ought to be a voice for Michael Chong in that. And as Canadians move towards this understanding that dealing with climate change is very important, so then the Conservatives will also move. And I think what's really, really exciting for the Conservative Party under the leadership of Andrew Scheer is he's going to be stable, he's going to be steady, no surprises, and in fact leave it to the NDP to really bring forward that tough alternative for the Liberals, because a Conservative will always be a Conservative. You know, we're not trading votes. They're not trading votes with the NDP or the Liberals, for that matter.
See, I think progressive conservatives have become an artifact. I don't think they're a viable force anymore, and not within the Conservative Party and nowhere else. I think it's, however, it's rich pickings for an emerging Green Party. I think there's a lot of overlap between progressive conservative ideas and Green Party ideas, and that migration may happen in future elections. Who knows?
Would it surprise you if Michael Chung? Would it surprise you if Michael Chung walked the floor?
No, it wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. He's a man of principle, though. It's possible, I suppose. But leaving him aside, I think what happened to him and the values that he espoused is very. It's put the final nail in the coffin of the progressive conservative movement. Sorry, which founded, which was the first government of Canada.
Although I think
it's dead.
I think we should avoid, and then I commit the same sin myself, but I think it's time to stop talking about the reform wing of the Conservative Party and the progressive wing of the Conservative Party. I think that's truly dead. If there had been a few more votes shifting his way, the Conservatives would have elected Maxime Bernier. I wrote about this in the Globe a few days ago. If you had said back in the 1990s, during the fight to unite the right, that the successor party of the Reform Party, of the Canadian Alliance Party, would vote for a Francophone lawyer from Quebec, people would have thought you were crazy. I think we can honestly say the Conservative coalition today has moved beyond and past those tired old wars.
What about Kelly Leitch? Andrew
Scheer. Boy, that's an interesting question. That is such an interesting question. 7%. So those of us in the Ottawa bubble totally missed the, I did, okay, let's just say me in the Ottawa bubble, I missed the strength of social conservatism within that race and within the party. But we really were overly afraid of the anti-immigrant notions that Kelly Leitch espoused. And she got hammered. I think her vision did not sell at all, and I think that's very good news for the party.
It sold at one point.
Yeah, she was tone deaf. She was tone deaf in her messaging. And robotic, like it was almost, take the, if you will, the worst of what happened to the Conservatives in the 2015 campaign, put it all together, and then here's Kelly Leitch's platform. It failed, and I think Conservatives across the country are breathing a sigh of relief because there is now a need to think about how do we get more Canadians into the Conservative tent? And Kelly Leitch was certainly not going to be helpful, alienating so many of the immigrant population that, quite frankly, Jason Kenney had done an excellent job of bringing into the Conservative Party in 2011.
Yeah, let's not forget about all the pixels that were spilled, or whatever you call it. Back in November and December, when Donald Trump in another election that I failed to call properly, won the American election. He was riding high, and all of a sudden we were writing stories about Kelly Leitch, Nick Kouvalis, her Svengali-like campaign manager, and they were going to ride this populist, nativist wave within the Conservative Party itself, and it would be death and disaster for the country. That quickly passed over to Kevin O'Leary, who, while not nativist or populist, was nonetheless an entrepreneur and TV star and a bit of a windbag, and therefore he was going to be the new Trump. They're all gone. Kelly Leitch especially disappeared into the ether, partly because there is not that kind of resonance for an anti-immigrant message within the Conservative Party, and partly because right now Donald Trump is not looking like a politician you might want to emulate.
Yeah, let me add this. We only have a minute left, but I'm seeing from people tweeting the Sunday Scrum live as we're talking that people say they're the progressives who are writing in, Paige Christensen and others, Rob Wolvin saying they're stuck. I'm a fiscal conservative, but I detest social conservative ideas. No one to vote for now. Rob Wolvin, I'm PC from Michael Chong. CPC must moderate stands if they want my support. There's work to be done.
Absolutely. And
tricky work, as Denise put it, a fine line.
He has a high wire act. He really has to balance it. And in fact, just given what we know about his consensus building and how he approached this campaign, he's probably the best person to do it for the Conservatives.
And I think we should probably look at him as a blank slate, too. Yes, he did have a quiver of policies. They all did. But he's really emphasized repeatedly that his whole goal was positive, was marketing, salesmanship. So he's going to really try to present a smiling face, as John has said, and others. He's really going to emphasize tone rather than content. That is to say, Scheer.
I think the party's feeling much better about having Mr. Scheer as its leader overall, especially party strategists overall, than having Mr. Bernier and all that libertarian baggage. That said, let's not forget, Justin Trudeau's doing pretty well right now. He's riding high in the polls. He's a good 10 points or more ahead of the Conservatives. They've got 2 years, but that said, it's going to be a very difficult challenge to challenge Justin Trudeau in 2019.